I hear you. So, well, you know what? We've got our countdown music going.
Wow.
It's that time.
Like, are we like kind of live? Like almost?
We are. We're like kind of live. Yeah.
This is like the pre-show banter. We're in the green room.
Yeah.
Green room, everybody. This is how it goes down. I like your shirt.
Thank you.
I'd like to get one. Where can I get one of those? Oh my god.
At the Active Town store.
Thank you. Okay, good. I was wondering when you were going to reply to that. All right, cool. Well, I'm actually heading over there right now. Cool. I put 2 in the cart, and I like them. Good job. Good job on the design too.
Oh, thanks. Very simple.
It's all about the message.
It's
My
all
friend.
about the message.
All right, so as we're, chilling out, getting ready for this awesome conversation, I mean, are we going to talk about your birthday today, too? Are we going to,
Sure.
share that aging is, a cool thing
It's
to
a
happen?
big part of it. Yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
aging.
okay.
It's all that good stuff. Hey, nothing's off limits.
All
It's
right,
a party.
I love it. So
Oh,
fun.
man. Seconds. I think I just pulled a muscle in my back.
I've never sat so long in my little office chair dancing on the chair. Which is about the only kind of dancing I can do right now post-surgery.
That's right. Yeah. That's
Yeah,
right.
I can't do any real twerking or anything like that. Not for another, couple months.
Yeah, well, you have me blushing with your twerking comment.
Is twerking appropriate for the 50-year-old crowd? Because, I'm in that club
course.
now.
Of course. I love it. I love it. I love it. Yes. Woo.
5, 4, 3, 2,
1. I should have actually had my fireworks, graphic, and effects pop in here. Nicole DeBoom, so wonderful to see you.
It's so good to see you. It's been forever.
It
Like
has.
5 years.
It's been a while now. Yeah, yes, we've talked. I've had you on the podcast before. So we did have that, but yeah, I mean the last time I saw you, I mean, was this the last time I saw you? Should we play it?
Uh-huh.
We should play it. Okay, this might be the last time I saw you, actually.
Pretty
I
sure
am very
this
proud of this company
was
and
it.
what I've built and created, and it has really come from the heart and been just such a natural extension of what I love about an active lifestyle. Our brand is about inclusivity. Running Start is a new nonprofit that we started this year. What we do is, the whole goal is to help women with barriers to fitness break those barriers and enter a new world that can change their lives. So my talk was such an amazing process for me to get there. It's called Fueled by Positivity. My goal was to take people on a little joyride for about 14 minutes. It's an up and down ride where I share with everyone my greatest success, from a tangible perspective, which is winning that Ironman in a skirt, which ended up kind of cracking open my world. I love podcasting. So podcasting for me is a way to share what inspires me, right? I'm inspired by other people's stories and the ups and downs that go with them, not just the success story. Enjoy your life and live it to the fullest.
Hope you've enjoyed.
That was so cool.
Wasn't that great? So,
Oh my God.
So that actually was a very, very short snippet of a 9-minute long interview, a video that we did. And that was actually that was 6 years ago. That was 2016.
Yeah. Okay. I had really cute haircut. That was like one of my favorite haircuts. I think we had just opened our retail store. I was laughing because like it scrolled through and there was that one mannequin where it's just the bottom half and the legs are facing up.
Right.
And I remember all the details about this. Like I think we found that half mannequin in like a dumpster.
Right.
Spray painted it black. We were like, we got skirts. We got to show some legs. And how fun was that though? You really you're such a good producer. You brought in all the things that like make people tick.
It was a good fun. So why don't we do this? Since we are live, we're broadcasting out there. We've got some folks, popping in. Jacob from the Netherlands just said good evening. Good evening,
Hey,
Jacob.
cool.
And we got a few other
Good
folks
evening.
that are popping in as well. CompuArt, you're out there on many of my premieres. Thank you so very much, folks, for tuning in. Why don't we do this? Why don't we have you just give a real quick introduction of saying, who Nicole DeBoom is, and then we'll kind of wind our way around. We had a little sneak peek of the skirt sport, and there's a whole story leading up to that. And but let's just get the elevator pitch of who Miss Nicole DeBoom is.
Yeah, you got it. Okay, I love elevator pitches. Once you've hit the 50-year mark, which I hit 2 weeks ago, the elevator pitch gets longer. Birthdays!
Birthdays!
I know, apparently I joined a club. When I turned 50, everyone on Facebook said, welcome to the club. So I'm enjoying this club, and I can't wait to see what's actually in it. But my elevator pitch, I grew up an athlete. I was a swimmer. I was a little scrappy swimmer kid from outside of the Chicago suburbs. And I swam at a very high level, very young. I made the Olympic trials when I was 16 years old in 1988. And then I went on to swim in college. But after college, I had no idea what I wanted to do. So I was out there waiting tables and had a moment where I just realized, one of the things that really makes me feel good about myself is when I am fit and strong. And so why not pursue this athletic quest that had been in the back of my mind since I was much younger, which was to go out and try out the sport of triathlon and maybe even do an Ironman someday. So I decided to pursue that. And within 1 year, I had not only entrenched myself into this sport and realized that it was something I loved. I met my husband on an airplane in 1995 going to a race. A few years later, turned pro, and I raced as a professional triathlete for 6 years. And at the end of that 6 years, I transitioned into my next career. We can share that story for what it's worth, John. And I became an official entrepreneur by founding women's fitness wear company, Skirt Sports. So I actually ran the company for 16 years. Oh my God, that's what I used to look like. She's still in me. I ran the company for 16 years. We did over $40 million in sales over 16 years, which is really cool considering the first, couple years were next to nothing.
Right.
And then in 2020, I decided that it was time to end that chapter, and I found a new owner for Skirt Sports. I sold the business, and by then I had a almost 10-year-old So we moved our family to a very small town, a ski town up in the Colorado Rocky Mountains where we live today.
Yeah.
It's called Steamboat Springs, and I am still in maybe what you might call the transition phase, doing a few really cool things, but really just wrapping my head around what I want my lifestyle to look like.
Yeah.
So that's where I am.
Yay, cool. And we do have comments coming in, so I'm sort of monitoring them here, and thank you very much, everybody, for doing your comments. I am seeing them. We just heard from Trini there in Boulder, Colorado, and it could be me. And Trini will probably be joining us live. She'll be joining us on camera towards the end of our broadcast here, and then also some good friends out there from all over North America, as well as in Europe. Jacob, as I mentioned earlier, and a few other folks, Arnie out there. Again, thank you all for joining us. Now, this particular image, you are actually crossing the finish line here. You are an Ironman champion. You win Ironman Wisconsin on this particular day in 2014. Wow.
Yes, actually 2004.
Oh, I said 14, but I really meant 4 because literally...
Yeah, it wasn't 7. It was not...
Yeah, I raced it the next year in 2005. Yes, exactly.
Yes.
Right.
And it seems like I just honestly, I look at this and I go, how did I do that? That's amazing. Mm-hmm. But at the time it was just what I did.
Yeah.
I swam, biked, and ran all day long, every day with my husband, and just pushed my body to the limits. But the really cool thing about this photo is, yes, I did cross the finish line first. I won an Ironman, the one and only Ironman win in my career, but I also did it wearing something very unique that would become the next chapter of my life.
Exactly. Which is what we had the little sneak peek with the video up front, was the skirt sport. So that was the prototype of what was at that point in time, was that nugget and that dream of, what if something this could be something. Talk a little bit about what that nugget was, because that was something that kind of popped in your head and you're like, things could be better. What was that?
Yes. We all go through times in our life when we're just in a funk, or like we think maybe there's some kind of change that's on the horizon, but we don't quite know what it was. And I was racing as a pro triathlete and perfectly happy in my life, but I felt a bit uninspired in a couple of ways. I was starting to feel the singular focus of the triathlon lifestyle as a professional athlete was maybe not suited to who I was inside, somebody who really thrives being surrounded by community, and maybe even women specific community. Like, it's just, I am my best person when I can build and develop and nurture relationships like that. And so this thing was just sort of like, I'm not sure if this is the right career for me, or for how long I'm going to do this. And then on the flip side, as I was out training and racing, I found myself fairly uninspired by the options for workout attire for women. They were all like men's, poor fitting. If they were women's, they were usually designed by men, and they had this whole, they called it pink it and shrink it. They would just turn the men's clothing pink and make everything a little smaller. And as we know, men's and women's bodies are very different. So nothing fit great, and it wasn't cute, and it was all black. And what happened to me is I have now kind of refined the process I go through when I have ideas. I didn't realize then that I am an idea generating machine. Ideas are like my jam. I love ideas. We get them, usually, those of us who are active people often get them when our bodies are in motion and our minds can free up, right?
Yeah.
So there was this one winter dreary training day in a town called Lyons, Colorado, outside of Boulder, and I was out for a run and I was feeling particularly uninspired, and I saw my reflection in a storefront window and I was like, who is that? I look like a boy. Nothing I'm wearing feels like it actually portrays my personality, and I just want to feel pretty.
Right.
And it was that word pretty that was kind of the nugget that it kind of stuck in my head. And I was like, what's so wrong with wanting to feel pretty? Like, I feel like I'm leaving a part of myself in my house when I put on my workout clothing and go out to train. Maybe I could make something that would make me feel better and give me more confidence while I'm out training and racing. And so I focused that little nugget, that idea, into one product, which no one had ever done before and brought to market. And it was a running skirt. Yeah. And you saw it a second ago. I wore it.
Yeah.
I tested a prototype in an Ironman, and I won that Ironman. Like, you can't write a script better than that to start a business, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So it was fun. It was like off to the next races. As soon as I won that Ironman, my drive and desire to perform in triathlon just completely it was second fiddle. Yeah. I was all in on trying to create something that would make women happy.
Right. Now, the other thing that we talked about in that little short video clip was the fact that you are a podcaster as well.
Yeah. Yes. Oh my gosh, I love podcasting. I constantly am having ideas for more podcasts. I now have 3. I'm running 3 feeds. Actually, I just opened up a 4th.
Let me get over to your website here and go down. Can I access them from here?
Yeah,
so
go
this
down,
is your website.
Click on Podcaster. Click on Listen Now.
Okay, so Listen Now right here.
Yeah, so you're on my NicoleDeBoom.com website, which I built. And I was like, this is so fun building websites.
Oh, there they are.
Yeah. So I have my Run This World with Nicole DeBoom. I've been doing that podcast for, like 6 years. And it's come and gone. Like, I've had motivation to do it for years. And then I'd be like, I'm going to take a break. And then I come back. But it's just so fun. I feature people who inspire me. Right. And I think we all need, what I've kind of decided is that we all struggle with a lot of the difficult things that are going on in the world and in our lives and in our communities. And so instead of posting and sharing about all the negative and sad things, that I would focus my energy on posting and sharing things that are positive and can bring people joy and help them grow.
Right.
So not every episode is super joyful, but for the most part, it's a podcast to just, grow a little bit. It's really cool. And then the next one you see, she runs it. This is so cool, John. So when I sold Skirt Sports, which was like this tumultuous, crazy roller coaster at the end, I came together with this amazing woman who ended up buying the company. She's got her feet under her and she is running it like a champ. I'm so proud of her. Her name is Sarah Ratzliff. And what often happens, and you've probably seen this before, is that when people sell their companies, a lot of times they kind of like, maybe they want to stay involved, or there's some deal where they're going to do X, Y, or Z, and then they often get kind of like kicked out. It's like they don't really fit in anymore. The new owner needs to like do their thing, and they kind of get kicked out of their own baby. But what happened with me and Sarah is that she basically just said, however you want to stay involved, I want to have you involved. And we focused for now on co-hosting a podcast where we just, I don't know, every day's different.
Yeah.
And we just have some fun. It's great.
Yeah.
So that's that one. But the third podcast is to help feature different stories that people may use for a reference guide for my new business that I launched. Okay. And I call it Aesop. I think you call it Aesop. Everybody calls it something different. Yeah. I have learned that one of the really interesting things about a name is that the more confusing it is or harder to pronounce, the more people remember it.
There you go.
So there. Yeah. So I started a company called Aesop, and the website is Aesop Nation. The podcast is Aesop Nation. And I help people preserve and share the stories of their lives. So that podcast is just a handful, maybe a dozen stories that people have agreed to let me publicly use to show how you might use my service. And I will tell you, John, one of my favorite episodes is my daughter and me chatting about 10 Halloweens, because she's 10.
Yeah.
And it is the most listened of all the stories on there. And it just made me think, God, I need to do a podcast with my daughter. Yeah. There's not enough podcasts out there. We need more, right?
That's great. And did I see there was another one podcast group? Wasn't it for suicide prevention? Tell us a little bit about that one.
Yeah. So when I launched Aesop, I got all kinds of, people ordering different interviews or random other things. So they saw that I'm an interviewer. I provide a service. So this one woman sent me a note, and I know her partner who died by suicide in 2015. His name's Steve Tarpinian.
Oh,
And
I
I'm sure you
Steve.
remember.
Yeah.
I'm sure you remember Steve. He was a prolific figure in the sport of triathlon.
Right.
Just this amazing, magical, beautiful man. And his widow, they weren't married, so surviving partner Jean sent me a note and said, Nicole, I'm on your email list. When I saw this business come up, Steve's hand literally was like guiding me to hit send and ask you if you would do a special project.
Right.
And so we talked it through, and we said, let's do one episode. We'll do a bunch of interviews with people who have been touched by suicide, and that became the name of the series. And we'll just turn it into one compilation podcast. Well, as I interviewed 10 different people who had been touched by suicide in different perspectives, I realized every single one of these stories needs to be its own episode. So we're in the next week or so, we will wrap. There are 12 total episodes in the series. It's called Touched by Suicide. And it's definitely one of those things, I said, I want to do things that bring people joy.
Right.
Well, it's not a joyful series. You don't go, hey, let's go listen to some lighthearted podcasting. I'm going to go on the Touched by Suicide, channel. You go there because you need it.
Right.
And the whole goal was to help people feel less alone in their suffering, whether they are suffering with mental health issues, or they're a survivor, or they attempted, survived, or someone they love has been lost. So it's I learned a lot through the series. I learned a lot. I will tell you, one of the big things that you may not realize, I'm not sure anybody listening might know, is a lot of us say so-and-so, committed suicide. Mm-hmm. And I was schooled immediately and educated that that's not the right way to talk about it. Mm-hmm. Part of trying to get rid of the stigma is to help normalize the conversation. When you say someone commits something, it's like they're committing a crime. And so they died by suicide. They attempted suicide. They, took their life. There's different ways to say it, but try not to say committed. Yeah. Interesting. So there you go. I know. So I will take on projects that are meaningful, even if they're heavy and hard. Yeah. Because I like doing meaningful work. I like it. It fills me up. I don't want to do surface crap work. I want to do meaningful work.
So I pulled this particular photo up because I think it's a good transition point. You mentioned also in the intro that you made the move from Boulder, Colorado, up to Steamboat Springs, Colorado, and this was a good inflection point for you because the business had been sold and it was a new chapter for you. Talk a little bit about that. The manifestation of making that happen, having a physical change of your domicile, of where you were located. Talk a little bit about why that was so important for you.
Well, I might need to give a little framework. So my husband,
Please
Tim,
do.
who you see in the photo, it was a 20-year professional triathlete who's an Ironman world champion. He won the Hawaii Ironman twice. He's in the Hall of Fame. He hit the big one, and there are very few people in the world who are the best in the world at what they do in a measurable way. He's one of them. And when he scooted down the bell curve, in the second half of his career, and, I watched him trying to climb back up and seeing if he could regain a step, and it was just sort of like this slow downward roll, which is what happens to athletes. I was sort of impatient with him, and I look back on that, and it's how I felt at the time. I can't change it, But as skirt sports, in the 16 years that I did that career, the last few years were kind of a similar role. It was like the market had changed, the climate had changed, my desire had changed, but I didn't know quite how to extricate myself yet. And what happened is, Tim started to talk about moving away from Boulder. We lived there for 25 years. I couldn't fathom moving away from Boulder. I was in the middle of my career. I felt the community there was really strong. I was really comfortable. We were raising a daughter there. And so I just didn't get why he couldn't, put down more roots or create new roots in this town until I made the transition with skirt sports. And it was interesting because I was very recognizable in the community. People would sight me on the trail and stop me and go, "Hey, oh, Nicole, I met you 8 years ago. And are you still doing that skirt thing?" And I used to bristle when they would ask if I was doing the skirt thing. I'm like, "It's a real business." But, after a while I was just like, "Yeah, I'm doing the skirt thing." But, when skirt ended for me and I had passed the torch and I was living in limbo for a very short period of time, I went for a walk and I wasn't feeling particularly great. And I didn't know how to frame or phrase how I had ended this chapter of my life yet. And I was on this amazing hike up Bear Peak in Boulder. And as I'm coming down, these two women see me and they go, "Hey, Nicole, I met you 6 years ago and I love your skirt." And one of them is wearing them and they're like, "So how's it going at skirt sports?" And I just had this immediate connection to Tim because I realized what he'd been going through for probably a decade.
Right.
Was people stopping him and going, "What are you doing now? How's the Ironman thing?" And it was really an interesting moment because I realized I'm going to have this same conversation multiple times a day for years.
Yeah.
And I've got to get either really comfortable with where I am and ready to turn about face or it's going to take a toll on my self-esteem. Well, at that exact time, Tim was like, "This could be it, Nicole. Maybe this is the time to move." And we literally just got so lucky. All the dominoes fell the way they were supposed to. And we put an offer on a house in Steamboat, sold our house in Boulder, and moved within a month.
Right.
It was crazy.
Yeah.
So I do believe that coming into a new community where people don't really know you, you have the ability to carve out an identity however you want that to look. It's very refreshing. For people who are at a phase in life where you're maybe out of the drive phase,
Right.
Literally, we never drive our car, but also there's not a lot of car driving going on here. We should talk about that. In
Yeah,
light
we
of
will.
active
Yeah.
towns. But I don't feel this innate need to create something huge again.
Right.
And I feel more of a need to nurture myself, my family, and the people around me and let things come to me instead of trying to hunt them down. And when that happens, it can be, I think, just a really, really fun and unique experience to resettle.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about Steamboat because you're right. It's one of the quintessential active towns that I've visited many, many times over the years, and I've documented a lot of the wonderful activity assets that's there. It's also one of the places that just oozes a culture of activity, and we'll talk a little bit about some of those fun events that happen in the city. But I want to stick with one part of this journey with you, and that was being okay with not knowing what's next. Talk about that.
Oh, yeah, that was actually really hard for a while. So I was sort of told that you don't quit your day job till you know your next job's going to work.
Right.
And that's what I did with skirt sports. I actually kept racing triathlons while this company was getting off the ground, but it got off the ground so fast I quit shortly after.
Right.
But I was still doing it just in case. But when skirt sports was winding down, I started to try to figure out what was next. And I was really struggling. And I talked to a good friend of mine. Her name's Erin Weed. You should check her out. She has a business called The Dig. She's so cool. She helps people like dig deep and figure out like what their true purpose is. But she just said to me, Nicole, this has been such a big and momentous chapter of your life. I feel that you would be doing it injustice if you put your energy towards the next thing before you fully close this door.
Right.
And as she was saying it, I realized that's what I had to do.
Yeah.
So I put aside any thought of what might come next, and I just worked on the practice of letting go. That is something we don't work on a lot, and it can be, because it's painful, but it can be really awesome.
Yeah.
So yeah, I sat with it. And what I ended up doing is I said, all right, well, I still don't know. So the day we sell our last skirt, we jump in the car to go on vacation in Steamboat. We had missed out on buying a house here. I don't think I told you this story. Did I?
Maybe. I did you talk about it on your podcast? Because
I think you did.
So.
Yeah. So we had like missed out on this house, and we were like, bummer, somebody else got it. But we had a backup offer, but we had no hope that would go through. And literally the last skirt sells online at noon on August 16th, 2020. I remember the date because we planned that date. We load our family into the car, and halfway to Steamboat, we get a call from our realtor. And she's like, guess what? The other offer fell through. You guys got the house. Your offer's live. It's on. You're moving to Steamboat. It was like, you have to close a door sometimes before the next one can fully open.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I came here not knowing what I was doing, and I thought I'll give myself the winter.
Right.
Well, winter was so fun last year. All the skiing.
Yeah.
All these new things. I got to be a beginner and just go have fun. And I was like, I don't want to, I actually need to keep the summer open too now. So I said, I'll give myself a year.
Yeah.
And I did. And I think a year was the perfect amount of time. If you can swing it between big careers, a year is a really good amount of time to do some soul searching and figure out how you want to reshape your life.
Yeah. It was such an interesting journey to share, that experience, because you share a great deal on the podcast with your journey and keeping us up to speed with what's going on, because you and I don't catch up that frequently. In fact, the last podcast episode that we had, I can't even remember when it was right after I got launched this in 2020. And you were still with Skirt Sport, but you knew that things were winding down. And so we talked a little bit about that, and we sort of dabbled on what's next. But all of this dream, this what took place was, if anything, it was just a dim glimmer in the future. You didn't really know what was going to transpire. So making that change, okay, so you get up into a brand new community. It's a nice reset on location, and there's no immediate job that you're there or project that you're want to be engaged with and involved with. So you let it kind of settle, and you let it bubble up, and ideas. And you said it earlier, you're just an idea person. You love this. It's like there's so many different things. So. But the other thing that both of you, you and Tim and also your daughter Wilder, all kind of embraced was a different spirit of, and you just mentioned it earlier, is adventure and really trying new things and being okay with sucking at something. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, that's so cool, because I mean, think about it. I've been a high performance athlete since I was like 6. I mean, I was swimming at the world level when I was a kid. I did everything to the utmost and tried to be an achiever and a performer. And what was interesting and really, I would say, freeing, was to allow myself to just try things for fun with zero emotional attachment to the outcome. And up in Steamboat, in a town like this, it's all about the winter. And I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to like winter. I have no idea how this Steamboat thing's going to go. Because, yeah, I lived in Colorado, but Boulder is a very mild winter compared to what's happening here. As I look out the window, we just got 12 inches in the last 10 hours. Like, it's, March. So
what I love about Steamboat.
It's amazing. But I just, your body acclimates pretty quickly to the cold. And what we did is Tim knew what he wanted. I think he had a vision. I was along for the ride at that point.
Right.
And he's like, we need skis. I'm going to buy you. And I ended up with 5 kinds of skis. I was like, how am I going to use all these skis? We had downhill skis and we had uphill skis and we had Nordic touring skis and I had skate skis and classic skis. I mean, we used them all. We used them all. And I fell on my ass so many times last year. It was such a blast, though. And it was so much more fun to be new than to be like trying to do it to win something.
Right.
And I'll tell you what, John, I did this thing last year. I was like, I got 5 skis. This is before my back flared up. So if we go there, we go there. But my back had a major flare up after the ski
We'll go there
season.
later. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was still healthy. And I was like, 5 skis, Tim, I want to use them all on the same day. And here's the rules. So I'm like, here's the rules. You got to do 1 hour on each set of skis. And we had like this whole thing mapped out. He's like, fine, we'll do it. He just did it for me, basically. Yeah. Loaded up the car. We got a babysitter after school. But we went out, we Nordic toured up on Rabbit Ears Pass for an hour. And then we got in the car. We drove to this golf course that's a Nordic center. And we did skate skiing and classic skiing for an hour and a half total. Then we loaded up the car and we went to the resort and we did downhill skiing for about an hour and a half. And we raced home to pick up our daughter from school.
Right.
Got the babysitter, all set up. And then we went back to the resort and did what you call uphill or AT or skinning. And we went up to the gondola as the sun went down. And I called the pizza place at the top and was like, we're coming. It was amazing. And it was so fun. And I called it the 5-way ski challenge.
Right.
And I said, does anyone want to do this with me? And I put it out. I got 3 people who said, I'll do that. Yeah. So maybe next year I'll have do a little like mini tour of the 5-way ski in one day. How cool is that?
Yeah, absolutely. And maybe because you had mentioned it earlier, we had a little challenge, and part of that little challenge was because you had mentioned that it was before the back had flared up. So so this is. Don't be shocked, folks. We're gonna show you some skin here. We're gonna show you some back pictures. So so this is the looking straight onto the back here, and you can kind of down in the lower quadrant of the photo there, you can see a little bit. Believe me, this next view will be a little more obvious.
Yeah, that's
what
me.
Are we looking at?
That is you're looking at L5, lumbar vertebrae 5. And it is what some people call a dorsal fin. I have a condition called... Totally, it's so disgusting. And we all stand around in our bikinis in our kitchen all the time.
All the time, yeah.
But so I have a condition called spondylolisthesis. It's the longest spondy name, and we all could just call it spondy because... no one can pronounce that. There's also not to be confused with spondylosis and spondylolysis and spondylitis. There's all kinds of spondies. This is the one where your vertebrae actually moves. So sometimes people have it in more than one level. I just had my L4. What happens is you often have a genetic weakness or you took a spill sometime in your life and there's a weakness in the vertebrae, usually in those 2 little transverse process things, I think, and it breaks. and it causes the vertebrae to move. And often, most of us that have this don't know when it happened. Some people do, but usually it can happen even when you're a kid and you don't feel it till you're older.
Got it.
Because, think about it. All right, here's a vertebrae. Here's your other vertebrae. Normally, they look really nice like this, right?
Yeah, yeah.
But it moved, and mine was just sitting on the other one.
Does the X-ray show that?
Oh, yeah. It's really gross.
There it is.
The X-ray does, yeah. And then I didn't send you. I have an even worse looking MRI. So, yeah, it's pretty nasty. And there was really no disc left. And what happened is I managed it for a few years after I was diagnosed, starting to have pain, and I stopped running. You just start limiting. This is something none of us want in life. None of us want a limited life.
Right.
But we're also all getting older, and we know our activities may change, and that's okay. But when I stopped running, that was fine. I could hike. So then I was like, mountain biking's okay, but maybe I need to do a little less because this downhill's starting to get me. And I could feel it after skiing. Last year, I skied 50 days on the resort. Oh my God. And and the falling. But yeah, it hit the wall last fall in November. Something I did, it just, you can see your spinal cord is in there.
Right.
So mine started to get pinched. And what I started to feel was numbness down my right leg and into my foot.
Yeah.
And
so this is you haven't yet turned 50. You're still 49. It's getting close into December, and you know, maybe it was earlier, like October, November. You need to make a decision. Are you having the surgery or not? We're going to fast forward to the fact that you had the surgery.
I did it.
You're all fixed up. And wow, what
cool
a lease
that
on
is.
life. That's
It's
awesome.
amazing.
Yeah.
I am actually 12 weeks out tomorrow.
Right.
12 weeks post-op. And I had what they call minimally invasive fusion done by this incredible neurosurgeon. And I couldn't be happier with how it all went. And it wasn't perfect for sure. But I was very fit going in, even with my limited activities. So John, by the end, I could walk for 10 minutes.
Right.
I could make dinner, but I would have to sit down and get up. You had to sit a lot.
Right.
I could do some core work. I was not going to be happy with that lifestyle.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, people who are out there's some of you are probably suffering with debilitating body things that are putting you on this path to limitation. And here's what made me make the decision. Because you want your doctor to just look at it and be like, oh, we have to get you in tomorrow. Because that's easy. Then you have to do it. But usually it's up to you. You decide.
Right. Yeah.
And I said, well, when my life is being limited to the point that I will no longer find happiness, or I'm actually starting to get depressed, and or when the people around me are suffering because of my condition, it's time. Yeah. And that's exactly what happened. Yeah.
Now this picture is you immediately post surgery. So this is part of your therapy, because they said you need to start walking. You need to get out there. Active mobility is huge. So this is you out there, getting on it. Yeah, the snow
actually did make it a little more sketchy. And people who weren't maybe as fit or stable, had good balance, they might suffer on the snowpack and stuff. But I brought my bodyguard, my husband. The biggest thing we had to worry about was friendly dogs jumping on you. So that was it. Otherwise, the first time I went for a walk, it was a quarter mile, and I came home and took a 2-hour nap. I was so tired. But here we are, 12 weeks.
So you did, so 12 weeks, and this is what you turned around and did yesterday. I'm back.
Oh my gosh.
You did this yesterday, 12 weeks post-op.
Yes. 12 weeks. You guys. And I'm on skis. So that's what you call uphill skiing. That's skinning. Yes. And it's kind of like glide walking. It's probably better for you than regular walking. The problem is you do have to ski down.
Yeah.
So that can be a little sketchy when you're coming back. I had an almost fall, and we were just snowplow. Your snowplow.
I was cracking up. Yeah, that's great. So I want to shift gears a little bit because you did mention it earlier. You're not getting out in the car very frequently. And in fact, one of my favorite photos that you guys shared is Tim walking with Wilder to school. And it's such a huge theme that we have here on the Active Towns podcast and the Active Towns channel, talking about how important it is for communities to have an environment that encourages people to be able to meet their daily needs by walking and biking. Talk a little bit about how important that is, for you, there in your new community. And Trini, I see that you dialed in. Just hang in there with us. I'll get you in a little bit.
Cool. Yeah, I love the fact that in Steamboat, everything, even by bike, is 15 minutes away. You can get just about anywhere in 15 minutes by bike. In a car, it's 8 minutes. It's interesting. We were a 2-car family before we moved to Steamboat. And when we moved, we had sold a car for some reason. Actually, I think Tim crashed it. We never bought a new car. And we haven't bought a new car. We have one car. We fill it up every 3 weeks. We barely drive, even in the winter. We walk so many places. This town is small, and it has these most incredible walking paths. You see the one they're on right now. That photo just makes me smile. That's called Butcher Knife Creek Path, and it's one of the paths that goes up to 2 of the different schools. Actually, 3 schools feed off of it. So you can get safely to your education every day. And Tim and I were talking that I think the pandemic actually has made people who work remote have the option to lose a car if they want to, which is really cool. It cuts down on your expenses so many ways. Bike as our second faster vehicle, which I think is like, at first Tim was like such a purist. He's like, we're never getting an e-bike, they're crazy on those things, and why human powered pedaling, all this stuff. But then we started talking about it more, and we're like, we could e-bike to the mountain with our skis on the back, not deal with the parking and the shuttles. We can e-bike to Wilder's lacrosse games. We can e-bike down to the river, which is like a huge place of recreation in the summer.
Right. Oh, blast.
Yeah. And maybe that's just the way of the future. Instead of more cars, we get more 2-wheeled vehicles.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Absolutely. I mean, that's a big part of it. And I'm glad you mentioned, that concept of leveraging the electric assist, the e-bike technology. It really is a game changer. It's meant so much to so many people, not only as we're just kind of getting older and being able to keep up with other friends. I had Leonard Zen on, and he talked about, with his heart condition, just being able to ride with some of his buddies. But then, a couple episodes ago, we had Tatiana on, and she was talking about how this really empowered her, gave her the confidence to be able to ride more frequently, and just getting that momentum up. And now she's able to ride it all the time for utilitarian purposes. So yeah, I mean, super important. And I'm going to touch upon one more thing on the culture of activity in Steamboat, and then we're going to bring Trini Willerton in with It Could Be Me and down in Boulder. So what we want to do is just riff a little bit about what the environment is like in Steamboat, and I'll pull up a few photos along those lines.
Yeah, for sure. It's one of those, what drew us to it is that it's one of those really cool mountain ski towns that you can actually live in. Not like Aspen, Vail, where it's too expensive. Only the incredibly beyond wealthy people can afford to live there. Granted, that might be changing as we speak. A lot of real estate markets are going crazy. But there is such a mix of, for lack of a better word, like blue collar, white collar community. And it's such a small community of 15,000 people that everyone mixes in every way.
Right.
All the schools are very mixed, both socioeconomically and just in every way you can imagine.
Yeah.
And I love that. So we were drawn to just this really cool hometown feel with real people.
Right.
And then we were like, okay, well, let's just discover. Let's just spend the whole first year. We're not going to go on vacation because we just bought a home in a vacation town. Why would we go on vacation? And we just discovered, and we're still discovering. So in the summer, the town is very much, in my opinion, a mountain bike, hiking. Mountain biking here is insane.
Right.
There's just everywhere you look.
Yeah.
And the river is hilarious. We're like, well, it's kind of like a beach town in the summer, and you go, what? And then you look, and there's like, oh, there's 3 kids in bikinis walking down the street. And like, that's literally how Steamboat is. It's just, it's so fun and
can I jump in and just say one thing
Yeah.
about the river path? Is it's
Yeah.
also a critical connector. So many of the neighborhoods and communities, you can kind of make your way down to the path, and then you can jump on that river path, and it's a wonderful utilitarian connection into the downtown area. Brings you right behind some of the main street areas there, and it's just and that's one of the most important parts about having protected and separated infrastructure of that type, is that it's not just for recreation. It can also be used for commuter purposes, get kids to school. There's ball fields and wonderful parks along the way, and so kids can get to Little League practice, soccer practice, things of that nature. So it
Absolutely.
they serve multiple
And
purposes. Yeah.
It like, you hop down to they call it the core trail, and you can just go and get off and go up to the mountain.
Yeah.
Or you can get off and go to the lacrosse field, or you can get off and go to the bike park, or you can get off and fly fish. Or here's what we really discovered. So, summer and spring, super fun. You just get outside and explore and do all kinds of cool stuff. Winter was like, oh my gosh, everywhere you look, there is some form of crazy, cool winter activity going on. And so you come to love snow instead of dread snow here.
Yeah.
And one of the things that was the biggest magical surprise for us was a second ski hill. It's a small
right.
ski hill called Howelson Hill.
Right.
And it's on the other side of town. It's very small. It has a ski lift. It has a PAMA, which I was dragged on last year. It's a rite of passage. All 50-year-olds, 49-year-olds must be dragged on the PAMA at least once. And it is absolutely a magical hub. You can do Nordic skiing there. You can uphill. People walk up Howelson. They had the Winter Carnival at Howelson.
Yeah.
And it is, people walk up Howelson with sleds, and then they just, like, adults my age, our age, are sledding down this trail on the other side. Like, it is unbelievable. And the programs that they offer for kids there, Steamboat is like truly for kids.
Yeah.
And then adult kids are second.
And we
But
saw the picture that we saw before this one was, of course, the shutting down the streets, creating an open streets event for Halloween, and then we've got this thing here, and then what the heck is happening here?
Okay, they have a whole thing called the Winter Carnival. See those kids? That is a 20-meter ski jump, like literally what they do in the Olympics. That crazy event. That's me screaming. My daughter is 10. She's skiing. She's doing the 20-meter jump with live flares in her hands in rapid fire progression, and it's fine. They were all fine.
Yeah.
And it's just a town where ski jumping, really, like, where there's only 3 or 4 places in the country or maybe in the world where 10-year-old kids can learn to ski jump.
Right.
And just be free. I will say one of the things I love the most about Steamboat is the independence that kids can have.
Right.
We tell Wilder all the time that she is now living a free-range childhood. And
Beautiful.
hopefully she's appreciating that.
Yeah.
It feels
you know
very
what? I
safe.
can't think of a better time to bring Trini in to talk a little bit about this too. So Trini, let's bring you in here. Hi,
Trini.
Hi. Hi, you guys. Well, I'm listening to Nicole talk about Steamboat, and
Yeah.
I just want to tell you guys that's how I got introduced to Colorado, and we fell in love. Yes, so absolutely 100%. a magical place. And happy birthday, John, before anything else.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
I don't know what's going on with my camera. I don't know.
Oh,
if
that's
you can
okay.
see.
There you go.
John's
We've got
fixing you.
We,
There you go.
I've got you all
Okay,
fixed
awesome.
up.
Yeah, and yeah, so I'm very excited to be here and to help celebrate John, who is amazing and has done so much for, oh my gosh, for like the advocacy space and for just like creating this mentality of just being outside and really enjoying being outside and doing it safely, right?
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
and John, I
And-
don't know if you know, but I met Nicole back in Kona.
Okay.
And after I did Kona in 2018, I went back for It Could Be Me. I just literally, I got a plane on miles. I got the hotel room on points. I got my little bag, and it was very funny because I was like wheeling my little carry-on bag everywhere.
Right.
And people were like, "Oh, did you just get here?" And I'm like, "No, I had my T-shirts, my stickers of It Could Be Me." Like that was like my, because I was just like on my own. And I just at one point, and I thought it was a great idea, but I just felt so lonely at one point because the year before I was with my family, I was with everybody, and I would see all the families, and I was like. So at one point, I saw Nicole at the store. We had not met, and I just remember thinking, oh my gosh, she's going to think I'm just some crazy lady. But I remember you gave me a hug, Nicole, and I was like, oh, you're so sweet. I really needed this right now. And she was just amazing. Yeah, so that's my memory of you.
Yeah.
Trini, you were on a mission and you were just starting something so emotional and personally connected, and I could feel that you wanted to do good in the world so badly. And you were there just for that pure intention. And I remember meeting you there, I think. And what you've done is amazing. What you've gone on to do is incredible.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
and for the audience, let's bring everybody up to speed. So Trini is the executive director and founder of It Could Be Me, which is a nonprofit, and I'm honored to serve on the board with Trini. And it's really born from the fact that we have to do what we can to make our streets safer for everybody who's out there. And Trini, I'll let you explain the name and what that's all about, and I'll drop into the chat box for the live broadcast here the URL for the webpage. So take it away.
Well, in 2018, we moved to Boulder kind of like in a similar situation in the sense that my husband was in a position where he had just sold his company and he wanted to live in a place where, where we could have access to different modes of mobility. We lived in Houston, where if you did not have a car, you were pretty much, you couldn't really move because it's not designed. Luckily now things are changing, but back then it was very, very limiting. So we wanted our kids to have the experience of just biking to school, to have a different type of childhood than what they were having in Houston. So we moved to Boulder, and at that point I was racing really, really, at the top of my game. I wasn't a pro, but I was just like, at that point, everything was coming together, my nutrition, everything was great, and I wanted to qualify for Kona. And so I was on the Boulder Ironman course every second I had a chance. As soon as my kids would go off to school, I would be either swimming, running, or biking, whatever it was that I needed to do that particular day. On May 8th, it was this gorgeous day, and I had to do one of my last centuries. So I went off. I remember talking to my husband, and he loves cycling even more than I do. So I was like, Nigel, will you come with me? I have to do a century. And he was watching like the Giro or something, and he said, I'll meet you in a couple of hours. I'll catch up with you. I'll meet you at the park, and by that time you'll be halfway through. And so I said, okay, fine. So I got ready, I go off to do my ride, and I remember thinking when I got to Nelson how lucky I was because there's construction everywhere and there were just like so many obstacles, right? So I get to Nelson and I start the descent. It's like an undulated road. At that point, the speed limit was 50 miles an hour. And I was not aware of how dangerous this road was. I used to ride it all the time because it was on the course. So I keep going, and I pass 63rd, and I start looking back, I signal, I start merging, and as I'm making my turn, I see the grill of this car, right? And I never lost consciousness. So all I could think about were my kids and Nigel, and how much, especially my littlest one, who was 9 at the time, how much he needed me. And I just, I just thought, I'm just so stupid. I should be on my trainer. This is not worth it. And that monologue still kind of haunts me to this day, because nobody should have to think that. Nobody should have the feeling that they did anything wrong because they're out there trying to be the better version of themselves, or because they have to use their bike to get to work. I mean, it should not be like a privilege to get somewhere safely, right? So I ended up in the hospital. I spent 6 days there. And in this whole process, the guy who hit me lied to the police, and it got reported, and it was like adding insult to injury, technically, because I was in the hospital and I could not defend myself. I was told not to say anything until I was able to talk to the police, because I hadn't even been able to give a statement. So luckily, because I've been in the triathlon community for 10 years, everybody kind of spoke up and defended me. And I mean, I couldn't. But anyway, so fast forward, 13 months later, my criminal case finally comes to closure when the guy decides to plead guilty. At that time in the state of Colorado, that implied 4 points on his driving record. 4 points. And the guy would not say that he was guilty. I mean, it was just so much time wasted, so much energy. And as that kind of came to closure, I was very fortunate to be called by Bicycle Colorado to be a witness for a bill that was on the table at that moment, which now is the law. It's the Vulnerable User of the Road Bill, Bill 175. And it drastically changed the consequences. And it was just kind of like being there at the right time in the right place. And I did get an opportunity to testify twice. Then again, because things for It Could Be Me happen like this, I got a chance to talk to the governor, to meet him at an event. And then I got invited to the signing of this bill. And it all kind of started making more sense. It was the fact that I went through all of this hardship and all this pain. It was worth it, And all I wanted from that moment on was to make sure that what I went through, no one went through. I mean, it didn't make any sense. And I've been very fortunate to find people along the way that are just as passionate and have just phenomenal input and have allowed me to grow and grow and grow. And last year we got invited as It Could Be Me to be part of a coalition with Vision Zero, Families for Safe Streets, and Road to Zero. So these are 4 organizations that are all led by women, which is really amazing in itself. And yeah, we were asking for congressional support for a resolution that made a commitment to 0 deaths. And it's pretty much verbatim what now we know as the National Roadway Safety Strategy. And so I must have met with over 30 Congress members, close to 40, leading meetings, just talking to them, sharing our stories with very, very brave people that were willing to just relive what happened to them. And I'm talking not only about crash survivors, but people that have lost family members. And, it's just one of the women, her name's Amy Cohen. She's the leader of Families for Safe Streets. She lost her son, Sammy, and Sammy was 13. And to this day, I still ride my bike with Emilio, who's my 13-year-old. And every time there's certain parts of our route that I still don't feel are safe. And I see Amy and I see Sammy, and it's just heartbreaking. And so thankfully, this all came to full circle when U.S. DOT and Secretary Buttigieg announced the National Roadway Safety Strategy, which basically is a commitment to 0 deaths through the safe systems approach. And John's an expert; he can tell you all about the safe systems approach. But yeah, so our country will change. I think we're going to have a time to transition, and we just have to be very mindful on how we move forward and take care of each other on the process and in the process. But yeah.
Well, thank you so much, Trini, for sharing that and bringing that I think I brought you on for my holiday live stream too. So you're always up for a live stream.
Yeah.
Come jump on in and do that. And folks, please, I did include the URL in the chat here, and I'll make sure that the permanent comments for this video has that link as well in there. Head on over to the website. A big part of this, and the reason why it's called It Could Be Me, is that concept of sharing within your networks, within your particular networks of of your family and friends, and in your social networks, the fact that it literally could be any one of us who is in that situation, and so it's so incredibly important to try to broaden the message beyond our insular little worlds of whether we're in street safety world or our bubble of athletes and utilitarian cyclists, and be able to try to get that permeating out into the rest of the world. And so that's the whole reason why it's called It Could Be Me. Those personal videos, I did a video, I think it was like 90 seconds long or something like that. Very, very simple. And that's what it's really all about. So Trini, once again, thank you so very much for joining me on that. Nicole, do you have a question for Trini?
Yeah. So, I just had one. Did you see my brain working?
You were like, you were about ready to jump in there, and I'm like, well, I
was.
need to make sure to.
I guess one of the things that hit me was, this is your life now. Like, could you ever have imagined that you would be someone who's seeking congressional support on, political issues? And even on that note, like, if a different party takes control of our country, could they shoot down the bill? Like, how does that all work?
Well, first, no, I had no idea. I was one of those people that just navigated life thinking that, as a society, we were going to take care of each other, and that, that good guys always got like the bad guys. And no, so no, I was an athlete, I was a mom. I thought my hands were more than full. We're a blended family, so we have 5 kids. Our oldest has Asperger's, and he's high functioning, but he has special needs. And our youngest, like I said at that time, was 9. So I thought my life was pretty complete. But yeah, little do we know, and one thing that always will stick with me is the fact that there was a man that was killed exactly a year to the day, where in the same intersection where I got hit, and his name was Charles, and some of my witnesses were actually there to put flowers on his ghost bike, and so you can imagine the shock for them having this experience. So I've always been very, very grateful, like from the moment that I realized that I was going to have the second chance at life. And I have been celebrating everything from like the moment I was able to walk to go to the bathroom to like brushing my hair. Like everything has been a celebration. Then completing Kona, I mean, that was like insane within itself. It was 5 months after the crash, and I had over 12 fractures, a punctured lung. I mean, it was just really bad. And thinking about it, it was kind of crazy, but yeah. But it was stuff that I didn't even question. It was like what I had to do. And that's kind of like how I live. It's my purpose, and it's the least I can do, the way I see it, because I'm here talking to you. I can still enjoy doing triathlon. I'm not competitive anymore, but I don't have that drive anymore. I mean, and I guess it's kind of like what you were talking about earlier, when you kind of go into a different place in your life. I mean, I love triathlon, and if I get to race, I consider myself super lucky. But before, it was like the reason I woke up, kind of after my kids and my husband. And now it could be me, Now this has become what I do and my mission. And I have many, many friends that have not been as fortunate as me. And it's in my head, I'm doing it for them. And it's, my way of saying thank you to the universe, to God, to whatever you believe in, for giving me this chance.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, again, thank you so very much, Trini, for joining us and for doing what you're doing. Hang on there with us. I'm gonna go back over to our main window here, but I want you to stay on because I want to bring you and Nicole back together after we finish this up. Nicole, any final points that you would like to leave our audience with at this point?
Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, the big overriding message that I've come to embrace over the past few years is that adventure is important in our lives. And the minute you stop trying to discover new things, stop trying new things because you're scared you might get hurt, or what will people think, or what will I look like, life gets a little more dull.
Right.
And so I encourage everyone anywhere, no matter where they live, to explore, continue to explore and discover, and include adventure in your lives. Every year when you think about what do I want to do this year, write the word adventure and write down some things, whether they're big or small. It doesn't have to be a big trip somewhere. It can literally be exploring your backyard.
Yeah.
But adventure, that's what I'm going to focus on for my second 50.
Yeah. I love it. I love it. Well, to close this, that's a great way to close this out. And also to close this out, I want to channel our good mutual friend, Ryan Van Duzer, who was planning on joining us here, but he's on a plane because of adventure.
Yeah. But man, he missed out. Ryan, we missed you. We
Yeah.
love you.
Well, hey, and I appreciate all of you for joining me to help celebrate my birthday here and Nicole's 50th, which was just a week or so ago, and just absolutely, you know, enjoy and so honored to have this platform to be able to produce this content and get it out there. It's so important that we're able to help transform our communities into places that, you know, help support a culture of activity. And Brandon's asking, is there cake? I'm going to go get a pizza, Brandon. That's going to be my cake for the day. But
yeah, everyone needs to eat a piece of cake for John today. I love it.
Well, Nicole, thank you so very much for joining me once again on the Active Towns podcast. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, John. Next time I'm going to be wearing my Streets Are for the Peeps shirt.
Yeah.
I love it.
There you go. Woo! I love it. Yay!